Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be doing the off-season preview for the New York Knickerbockers. And with the Knicks currently, we got to get out ahead of this. Supposedly, there's mutual interest between Jason Kidd and the Knicks. This will be an off-season preview. So I guess comment, what coach besides Jason Kidd do you think might be under consideration? Because right now it seems like he could be the front runner, and they would have to give up draft capital to acquire him. Now, moving forward, the thing I want to say, though, the biggest question mark in this offseason is getting the coaching hiring right. We've seen two franchises go through it, championship franchises. The Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. I guess you could even say David Blatt to Ty Lue. Literally allowed the Warriors to become a dynasty and the Cavs to win a championship the year that Ty Lue was named coach. And an example of it going wrong is Mike Budenholzer being fired and then Adrian Griffin being hired, and obviously not being a coach that, I guess, impacted winning or helped the team. It just seemed like they went and got a players coach who didn't really know X and O's. And I think that's, besides the injuries and the age, father time hurting Milwaukee. But I think that Adrian Griffin hiring really set them back. So the Knicks need to be careful to make sure that they don't do a similar feat. And that's where I'm just going to leave that, because I feel like pretty evident. They need a coach who's going to be able to maximize or optimize, as we like to say, offense and defense. The team is capable of playing defense and offense, but it seemed like at times their offense was great at times, but at the expense of their defense. And then when they put their defensive squad, their offense would hinder. So that's kind of what we saw Kenny Atkinson do to the Cavs after JB Biggerstaff was, relieved. I think is a similar thing we should see here. The Cavs were a great defensive team and had good offensive moments, but their offense or their defense would flounder in crunch time. So if we're breaking down the Knicks, I do want to say there really is only two trade. I don't think they're going to trade Karl-Anthony Towns, especially with Leon Rose, his former agent, being the president, and rumors swirling that Cat had a hand or was a guy who was able to say that, maybe had a say in the firing of Tom Thibodeau. So for me, I think the biggest thing is when you look at that, the current situation, I think the only guy that you might be interested or thinking about moving is Mikal Bridges, due to him being extension eligible. And do you really want to give him an extension? And after seeing how impactful OG Anunoby is, and I think OG is arguably the better defender and the better or more consistent offensive player, plus he won't fade away from every single layup and shot known to man, that you use Mikal Bridges, send him to a team, that team figures out the extension. Because that's the big thing. Once Mikal gets paid, it becomes difficult to keep this team together because it becomes more expensive, and Mikal's on a cheap deal right now. So to me, if you package Mikal with Mitchell Robinson, you can either get multiple players back and just bring in, a deeper bench to help stagger minutes and give you more balanced lineups and different looks, or you continue to star hunt and you package those two contracts. But I think with the young guys like Tyler Kolek, Pacom Dadit, is it Dadit or Pacom? I'm just gonna say Pacom. Someone tell me how to say it, because I feel like I've heard 1,000 people say it. So this is a team with as near as $200 million already committed this upcoming year. OG's making just under 40. Jalen's making 34.9. Towns is making 53. Mikal's making 24.9. Josh Hart 19.4. Mitchell Robinson 12.9. And to me, Robinson's had continued injury problems, and his salary could be broken up into two players at least, and that could be a backup big man, especially with Ariel Huckaporty's knee giving out on him. That was kind of scary in terms of it just seems like that might be just a congenital issue or just a wear and tear issue that might plague him for his career. So might just hold him to being a reserve big. that getting another big man who's cheap, sort of like how Nick Richards was a big time free agent acquisition, I think a similar thing could be said about a guy like Mitchell Robinson being maybe traded for, off the top of my head, I mean, Goga Bitadze would be perfect for this team. If they could somehow, obviously maybe not Mitch going directly to the Magic, but 3-team deal that lands you there. And the Knicks will spend what they can. And they're a team that, obviously, if you look, I'll real quickly touch on their draft pick. They have the 50th pick in the second round. If Eric Dixon from Villanova is available, I wouldn't be surprised if they take him. He's a guy who can play. He's a 4 who can be a small ball 5 or a big 3. 3-point bomber, super tough. So there's that. Now, they have 11 players, including 2 with team options. PJ Tucker will be declined, and Errol Huckabee will probably be picked up. And that's 11 players, probably 10 players going in. They're going to be a team that's approximately $4 million over the first apron and approximately $8 million under the second apron. So yeah, when you look at it there, I think this is a team that's going to be in the first apron. Maybe they try to get below. They do have a trade exception from the Jericho Sims one, and they only have the minimum salary exception. So, and the other reason why they wouldn't trade OG Anunoby is because he has a 15% trade kicker, while Mikal Bridges doesn't, and he's extension eligible. So just to reiterate that. Now, to look at the main thing that I think they need to address, either through players or with coaching, but obviously through players, is improving their front court defense, getting a rim protector that can stay healthy, maybe an athletic guy who can be maybe a change of pace big next to Karl Anthony Towns, or to relieve or play next. 2, which I think is huge. Like I said, a Goga Bitadze would be great. This is, I think, a squad that we saw their defensive limitations without a healthy Robinson. Towns just doesn't have the speed to cover ground outside of paint, and Haliburton in the double drag schemes was just killing the Knicks because they weren't able to switch. They don't have switching personnel, and they don't have like a disruptor. Don't get me wrong, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, great defenders, but they have to exert so much on the offensive side. So they kind of need their defensive guy who can come in and be their Caruso or Jared Allen. Either of those type of players would be really key for them. Problem is if you look at the free agents, Precious Achiuwa, by the way, is not expected to return. Looking at the free agents, I think Brook Lopez is too slow as well for that. If we're talking about switchability and having the foot speed to do that. And I think Jackson Hayes will be too expensive. I think Paul Reed, who is an energy big man who can set strong screens, has strength and the athleticism to switch, is one to be curious about. Now, defenders, Gary Payne II would be ideal for them, or even a DeAnthony Milton, if healthy, would be huge for them. I think Keon Ellis would be too expensive. But yeah, let me hear your thoughts.